We're a little bit less than a month away from the trade deadline. Jimmy Butler is the big name out there. It seems like he's trying to make his way to Phoenix. Bradley Beal says he hasn't been approached about waiving his no trade clause. Dave, I made this point on Locked On Heat, but I want to talk to you about it. If I were another team, and the right team, not just any team, I would really be. I might be jumping at the chance to go get Bradley Beal as long as he came with a 2031 pick from Phoenix, because that Beal contract, we all look at it as an albatross. That was 2 years ago. It's 2 years left. Still 100 million left on. Like, it's 50 million for Bradley Beal is not good right now, but it comes off your books in a couple of years. It's not awful. He's still shooting 40% from three. And I look at a team like Detroit or San Antonio where you're still cheap. You haven't had to pay your biggest guys their biggest money yet. Take Beal on your team. Nice little veteran guy. Locker room favorite everywhere he's Washington and Phoenix. I think he can help those teams make a little bit of a playoff push here. And you eat it for 2 years, and then you get this golden lottery ticket of an asset in the 2031 Phoenix pick. As long as it's unprotected, I would be on the phone. I would be calling Phoenix and Miami.
Call that in.
What do you want? Like, here it is. We'll take Beal.
Just pretend to be the Spurs and call that in.
Right.
That's a great deal for all the reasons that you just laid out. And then, like, look on the basketball court. Bradley Beal is one of the best guards operating out of DHO and elbow actions that we've had in the last 10 years. He was doing tons of it when he was at the Wizards. He doesn't get a chance to do much of that where he's at, right? And now that they've split him off from Plumlee, he's doing less. I would guess. I don't know. I don't have the numbers in front of me.
No, but it's true. I mean, he's not running it with Oso either. Like, it's just, yeah.
But man, imagine if he was running that with Wemby.
Right.
You know, you could see where that would help develop Wemby as well. And, you know, $50 million a year for the next 2 years. Who cares, man? Like, cap space is not as valuable as it used to be. San Antonio's cap space actually doesn't matter for another 2 years until Wemby goes on to that next contract and players start wanting to come play with Wemby. So I'm with you, man. I hadn't even thought about the Spurs as one of these teams. You know, I thought about Denver. Can Denver get in without giving up MPJ, though? Like, that's the problem. Like, Denver is impossible, right? But you could see where Beal and Jokic, it would work really, really well together. If you're
Denver, like you were talking about MPJ for Zach LaVine. And that even like we're talking about what $10 million difference between LaVine and a little bit less than 10 million. So it's still hard to climb up to that Beal number. But if you could find a way to do, if it's MPJ, Najee, whatever, let's say you get this and you're also getting that first round pick as Denver. Like, you're not going to spend that pick in 2030. We're not going to use the pick in 2031, but that's another thing in a trade chip for a team that doesn't have any trade chips. I would also be looking at it if I were the Nuggets.
Here's the problem, though. What happens if you wind up feeling stuck with Bradley Beal next season and feeling stuck with Jamal Murray? Do you know what I mean? Like,
would you trade Jamal Murray for Bradley Beal?
Who's trading for Jamal Murray, man? For real?
That's true.
That contract is that contract a good contract?
No, I think everybody knew that right away. I mean, it's only good when you have him next to Jokic.
That's it. So, you know, I think if you're Denver, you probably like everything kind of gets reframed through that too. But I also like Detroit. I think he could work well with Cade. Again, it's another high level ball handler, a guy who can score. It's going to make life easier. And Detroit, they got a good shot at top 6, man. They got a good shot at making the playoffs with the defense. The way like the defense has been playing lately, Cade is maybe all NBA, especially when you consider how many guys are out of the running. I would love that trade for Detroit. Wes, you're pretty good at these, man. Like, where else do you want to see him?
Well, here's my other thing. If you're Beal and you want to win, if you want to make the playoffs,
go to Detroit.
Pistons are a better position to make the playoffs.
This is insane. Right now. Someone's going to clip this of us say, if you want to go to the playoffs, go to Detroit.
Go to Detroit. Do I have the place for you? The Motor City. Look, they've got they got a Little Caesars in the arena. I don't know what else you want if you're Bradley Beal, but like, it's crazy.
Hot and ready.
Literally, Detroit and San Antonio are in better position to make the playoffs than Phoenix is right now. So if you're Bradley Beal, why wouldn't you look at this? And for the record, I understand why he has not been approached by waiving the no trade clause, because apparently, like, the Suns front office is not going to approach him until they have something on the table.
Yeah.
The reason I bring this up is, why is this not on the table yet? If I were these other teams, I would be like, get me Beal. We can have him on the team. He helps us right now. And as long as, I guess that's the holdup, is Phoenix willing to part with that 2031 pick unprotected? And my point now is, you're pot committed. What else are you doing? Like, you either do this, Or you go the other way and just say, we're going to trade everybody. We're going to trade Beal, but we're also going to trade Durant. We're going to trade Devin Booker, and we're going to just completely start over from scratch. So
I don't think they have to trade Booker, but I do think that they're at the point. I don't like the Jimmy Butler trade for anyone, except for Miami getting off of Jimmy Butler. I don't like it for Phoenix. It does not work on paper or in my basketball brain. It doesn't work. And I like what they have now better than whatever they would have when they got Jimmy Butler. I don't like Nurkic is really bad. That's their biggest problem, is that they don't have a serviceable defensive big man. That is their biggest problem. Scoring's not an issue. Ball handling's not really an issue. They've got a huge defensive hole, and their guys are not able to solve that. Kevin Durant is the guy I would be trying to move if I were them, because I actually think they could get maximum value back for Durant. So there's a little bit of sunk cost happening for Phoenix. I mean, this is $409 million payroll, which is the second highest in sports. When I found that out, it blew my mind. So I try to repeat it as much as possible.
In all of sports?
Second highest in all of sports. Yes. Second, right behind the Yankees. It is the second highest in all of sports because of the taxes.
Right.
Absurd to be a play-in team, not even a play-in team right now, by the way. So smart money, right, says cut your losses. We're toast. We got to get out of this business. And maybe could you maybe get a first-round pick in next year's draft for Kevin Durant, included with maybe some young players? I don't know. But if Kevin Durant was available, you'd have a list of contenders trying to get him. Like, would Golden State be able to come up with a Kevin Durant trade right now? Yeah. Now, I don't know what they have to give up, but you would have a market for Kevin Durant that you don't have for Bradley Beal, and that you should not put Booker on the market, because that's your guy. If anything, if you were going to blow it up and start over, you need to start with them. Like, you can't just Devin Bookers don't grow on trees. Bradley Beals do, in my opinion. I think you can find a bunch of guys to fill that role, but Booker does not. Kevin Durant at this stage of his career, you shouldn't even be thinking beyond this season. They should move him this summer no matter what. But I would definitely be trying to get maximum value for those guys right now.
That's a great call. I mean, you just got me thinking about him going back to Golden State would be what fake trade? It would be like Wiggins, and if you got Kevon Looney and Gary Payton back, I mean that's basically your defensive backbone right there between Wiggins, Looney, and GP2. You got Looney and GP2 on expiring
Phoenix
salaries.
Winds up a better team if they're doing that, right?
Yeah, right. Because you still have Booker and Beal doing the scoring.
Yeah, I mean, you could theoretically still do the Jimmy Butler trade. I mean, the funniest thing about this is that it came out that it's obvious that Jimmy Butler just sees them as marks, right? Matt Ishbia is just apparently willing to just write a blank check to whoever comes through the door. So I don't know, man. I don't see this trade happening for Jimmy Butler. Whoever's leaking this info is doing a good job of making him look like an unattractive asset. It's pretty funny.
I have no idea what to make of the Jimmy Butler situation. And I was in the room when he basically burnt the last of the bridge that was remaining between him and the organization.
Man.
That was wild. That entire experience was crazy. And but it does seem at least like Phoenix is really motivated to get this done. Jimmy is really motivated to get to Phoenix because they're going to pay him. And I'm struggling to figure out how it happens, but also I think that where there's a will, there's a way, and we've been shown that in the NBA time after time. And I still think if you made me bet that he ends up in Phoenix, but that's it. It would it's just a feeling, right? It's exactly it, right?
It's funny how this league works, right? These guys can pretty much engineer what they want. And it is funny how that always works out. But I think the more interesting thing is, where does Bradley Beal wind up? Because he's the most likely guy to get moved. I don't know. Detroit or San Antonio should definitely be in on Bradley Beal. I think he's a much more intriguing addition to someone's team. It's a funny thing to say, but I think Bradley Beal will contribute more to winning this season for his next team than Jimmy Butler will for his.
Well, yeah. I mean, if the two teams we're talking about is Miami, which he doesn't want to play for, and then
Right.
Phoenix, which seems sort of out of it, then you're probably right.